Thank you very much for coming this afternoon, and welcome. I would like to start this presentation with just a statement of a fact, and that is we've all been commanded to preach the gospel to those who have not heard. Over the course of the last year, I've studied foreign missions, and I've discovered there's a problem with contemporary mission methods and strategies. Many well-intentioned missionaries feel that they're not successful in planting a church if they don't have a certain number of members of the congregation, a seminary-trained pastor, or have constructed a building or secured property for that project. These are all wonderful goals, but the problem is none of these objectives are biblically taught in Scripture. They are merely traditions that the American missionaries are adhering to and have been for years. While the Lord is blessing these endeavors, it is important to realize that they do not follow the directions we have been given in the Bible. Today I want to discuss a CPM. What is a CPM? A CPM is short for a church plant movement. By following a biblical method of planting churches, using the book of Acts as a template, the church can experience explosive growth. In his book, Church Plant Movements, How God is Redeeming a Lost World, published in 2004 by Wig Take Resources, David Garrison defines the church plant movement as a movement of God which will see rapid multiplication of indigenous churches, planting churches, that's churches planting churches, that sweeps through a people group or population segment. I would like to begin by breaking down that definition, giving an example of the kind of success CPMs are having globally, and then discuss the possibilities of us getting involved as co-laborers with God and taking part in one, either foreignly or domestic. There are 5 main points to Garrison's definition that I would like to detail. First off, he states that a CPM reproduces rapidly. Shortly after being planted, new churches are already starting new churches, and they follow in the same rapid reproduction of their parent. The second main point in the definition is multiplication. Virtually every church in the church plant movement is involved in starting multiple new church plants. As each church understands its ability and responsibility to reproduce itself, the number of church plants really begin to rise. The third main point is indigenous. Indigenous literally means created from within, as opposed to being started by outsiders. In a foreign CPM, the first few churches might be started by an outsider, but the momentum quickly shifts to the locals as they start doing the actual work. Soon the new believers should not even realize there was ever a foreigner involved, and the movement should look, act, and feel homegrown. The next idea Garrison uses to shape in our minds what a CPM should look like is churches planting churches. As I mentioned, though church planters may start the first church plant, soon the new churches get involved in planting churches. A tipping point then is reached and the true movement is actually launched. Lastly, these movements occur within people groups or interrelated population segments. Since the communication of the gospel is so crucial to a CPM, they occur within shared language and ethnic boundaries. It isn't long, however, before they get the itch to share Jesus themselves and they start reaching out to other towns and states, even other nations, and soon are on their way to become church planters. One of dozens of examples Garrison gives in his aforementioned book, in which the church experienced mind-boggling growth, can be found in Bihar, India, where the population of over 90 million was over 85% Hindu, with the remaining being Muslim and Buddhist. Now in 1990, only 28 small churches could be found that proclaimed the Lordship of Jesus Christ and held to the truths and teachings of the Bible. Utilizing the strategy described in the book of Luke, coordinators David and Jan Watson adopted the approach Jesus had used when he sent out the 72 disciples 2 by 2. This proved to be highly successful as the church grew from only 28 churches in 1990 to over 5,000 churches only 10 years later in the year 2000. Rex Bryant, a missionary to Brazil for over 16 years and founder of Global Mission Strategies, a church plant organization, said this about the problem with contemporary mission work. Missionary work was a struggle for years trying to do it the way we had always done it. I always noticed very little if nothing was getting done while we were not there. But then God put a halt to my plans and allowed us to partake in His plan. That is the biblical blueprint for the spreading of the gospel that Luke lays out in the book of Acts. The truth is we have all been called to preach the gospel in some form or another. whether it is to our neighbor across the street or our neighbor across the ocean. While the goal of getting someone saved is crucial to evangelism, that's only the first step, as God desires a lifelong journey. The new convert should be discipled to the point that he or she becomes a disciple of themselves. This takes less time than we may think, as we always tend to make things more difficult and complicated than they actually are. In his book, The Master Plan of Evangelism, published in 2006 by Rebel Publications, Robert Coleman stated that the fulfillment of Jesus Christ coming to earth, dying on the cross and being raised from the dead, depends on the faithfulness of his chosen disciples to their calling. As long as we are reproducing and teaching our disciples to be disciples and to reproduce themselves, then the church will flourish. All these ideas mentioned and methods mentioned can be accomplished. And this is all at the heart of the church plant movement. Thank you very much. God bless you.